What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, yes, I'm super excited. No, I wasn't gonna leave you out. I'm super excited because today we have a special guest. I feel like he's like coming on more frequently now, but my fiance Reggie's here and we're super pumped because we're gonna be talking about communication.
Actually, me and Jasmine, I brought this up to Jasmine because we were in the midst of, we're in a season where communication has been probably one of our top challenges.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just being fully transparent.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest opportunities we have to get better. So yesterday we were having, I think we had a little disagreement or something like that. And or the day before, and I was just like, hey, like, this is the stuff we need to be talking about and being fully transparent, because communication is not always the most fun thing to work on. So
yeah,
for
sure.
So the main thing, I know one time we actually talked about communication.
Oh my gosh, that was like back in 2018. Y'all, okay. I not cringe, but it's just hilarious watching our old videos because we were still a lot younger, and I'm just like, bro, we had no idea.
Well,
no idea, but like,
you're saying a lot younger. That was like a year or two ago, right?
2018. It's currently 2021, so 2020,
that shows you where I'm at
2019,
right now.
yeah. So
Sheesh.
I mean, I was just graduating college. You were still just getting into your career.
Yeah.
So
that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we had a more positive, like, we knew about communication, but as we're a few months away from getting married and we're a little bit more seasoned, we've been together for 7 years.
Yeah.
It's like after 7 years, we're still having to work on our communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest reason why it's a challenge is we're both completely different people. And even as like we are in a relationship, even though we've been in a relationship for a long time, it just shows you that we'll never stop getting to know each other or never stop having to learn each other and learn how to communicate with each other, like get better when it comes to figuring each other out and figuring out how to make our relationship thrive.
Well, let's park it right there. So what would you say is like, well, let's each explain to our friends what our personal communication styles are.
Okay.
So I can go first.
Yeah.
I would say that my communication style is, well, one, I can beat around the bush and I can like go through the back door or the side door. So this is an analogy that actually Reggie's therapist gave to him, and that has really helped me to be able to visualize both of our communication styles. So there's a house, there's a front door, side door, back door. Well, I tend to go through the side door or the back door. Basically for a plethora of reasons. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm afraid to express my feelings because if I have a wall up, I don't want to get hurt. It's a protective thing. So a lot of times he can ask me like, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Is something bothering you? And I can be like, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. And then
on that 10th time, it takes me, so I ask her 9 times, and on the 10th time, that's when she wants to actually tell me how she's truly feeling. So that's what we mean by going through the back door or the side door.
And also when it comes to conflict, I like to talk about it right then and there, get it over with, and not take any time to think or process or whatever. So what's your style?
Yeah, with me, I like to kick in the front door. So boom, you feel me? Like, and sometimes I can come off, my words can come off sharp. So that's basically what she told me yesterday when we were having our little disagreement.
You sound sharp.
And but my words can come off sharp.
Yeah.
And I also used to really deal with anger issues. So me being reactive, like if I respond right away, a lot of times I can say things that I don't mean, or I can be really hurtful with my words. So, but I like to like just really get straight to the point. Like I really don't like having to ask a bunch of questions, and I don't like being questioned.
That's another thing.
Yeah, like I do not like being questioned. And I would rather just ask you the question and then you give me the answer that I need that first time.
Yeah.
And that's going through the front door. And that's typically like how my style is. But when it comes to dealing with the conflict or in the heat of the moment, I like to step away and create some time in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the reason why I like to do that is just like I said, I know that I can say something hurtful if I respond right away.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, like I like to take some time, and what it looks like is, hey, like Jazz, I don't feel like this is the wrong way to do it. By the way, Jasmine, I don't feel like talking right now. Like just give me some
Which
time.
eats me up on the inside. I'm like, no.
Yeah, she's
That's how my
like
inside
she's
talks.
hot, like mad, and then I gotta, feel super guilty because I'm like, yo, she's mad right now and she wants to do it. So that's like my style, but you see how with us, like our communication styles are very different.
Yeah.
She wants to, in the heat of the moment, talk about it. I like to process it, walk away, and kind of gather myself.
Yeah.
And she likes to go through the back door or the side door, and I like to like go through the front door with our communication, and that could cause like friction.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important to understand people's communication styles, or not people's, but I mean, yes, people, but especially your partner's communication style, because that can prevent a lot of conflict when in your head you're like, okay, when communicating, a person should go through the front door. Well, it's like, no, not everyone communicates in that way. So if I know that my partner goes through the side door or the back door, I won't get as angry as quickly when I'm asking her him every single time, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And they're not telling me up front, but I can encourage them to be like, hey, I just want to let you know if there is something going on, like this is a safe space. I'm willing to hear and understand what you're going through or how you're feeling. So whenever you're ready to let me know that, let me know. And then I feel like, just speaking for myself, when a person presents communication in that way, it leaves the person who goes through the side door or the back door to be like, oh, okay, well, this is a safe space. I can talk about this here.
Right.
It's a reminder.
Right.
Because sometimes, like that reaction that I have of going through the side door or the back door, I don't even know I'm doing it until I'm deep into it. I'm like, oh, I gotta back up because now I'm going through the side door and I shouldn't be doing that. I just need to go through the front.
Well, how does it make you feel like when I'm kicking in the front door and I'm like,
basically, I'm like, abort mission. Because I feel like I also don't really handle conflict well. Or confrontation well. Not just conflict, but any confrontational situation, I'm like, ugh, and I'm still working on that. So, like, when you're driving through the front door, I seize up and I'm like, I don't know what to do, and then it's like fight or flight, and so then I get all confuzzled and all this stuff, and because I'm not used to that, and also on top of that, I don't like confrontation, so that can get really uncomfortable for me, and then I shut down.
Yeah. And then for me, like when you go through, like you come through the back door, and I'm trying to come in through the front door, and it's taking me a bunch of questions to get to the point, and you're finally like, hey, I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
That is like frustrating. That is very frustrating to me because it's like I literally tried to figure out what was going on with you, and like you just kept putting it off, and then it's like when I'm chilling like in my space somewhere, or I'm not even thinking about that situation anymore, and then you come and you're like, babe, so
Oh my gosh, that is like me.
So I think I need to check in, and it's like, oh, and I know exactly what situation and what she's about to say. I know what she's about to reference, and it's like literally 30 minutes ago, an hour ago, when I asked you 9 times, and now you want to come to me and be like, well, this is how I was feeling. I'm
Better
like,
late than never.
why didn't
right?
you say that the first time? But at the same time, like, I have to understand, like, even when I ask those questions, and because I know you pretty well now, I have to understand these are the signs, like, for me to know that there's something going on with Jasmine, even if she says there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And me knowing those signs and paying attention to her and knowing, like, okay, this, like, the fact that she's quiet, like super quiet right now, not extra bubbly like she usually is, there's something going on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extend grace and I'm gonna give her time, because when she's ready, she'll come to me and she'll say something.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll say, hey, this is what was going on. And I'll be open and not more so, why didn't you tell me that? Now I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm still working on that. But at the same time, like, that's the perspective that I have to have, understanding that, you know, okay, this is your communication style, this is mine.
Yeah, that's really good. I think it's important too to practically share some lessons that we've learned, like practical takeaways that people can implement in their own relationships to become better with communication, because it doesn't happen overnight. I think
and we don't want to just throw our problems out there on y'all and then not give how we're actually working
for sure.
on
Yeah.
solutions.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing for me that I know, like, we are constantly working on and we're constantly hearing from our therapists, from devotionals that we do, from the books that we're reading, mental, whatever. Like, one of the main things is communicating to understand.
Yeah.
Like, communicating to understand. So it's like when it's like when you talking to somebody, I mean, this is a rule of thumb for communication in general, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
So going in, not just going in to get your point across, but going in to understand what the other person is saying and what they have to say in their perspective. Mm-hmm. And that takes being open.
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like another big thing that ties into that is to communicate to serve the other person. Mm-hmm. Meaning, like, we're reading a devotional and it's basically talking about how in marriage you have to lose in order for you both to win. Mm-hmm. And essentially when it comes to serving someone else, you're putting your needs, your desires, whatever, after theirs. And so in communication,
which is not easy.
Right. In communication, like you were saying, going into it being like, okay, in this conversation, naturally in my flesh, I want to win and get my point across and let you know what the heck you did wrong. We both do that. But really good communication is going into it, like you're saying, okay, I want to understand their perspective. What are their hurts, their traumas, their pains from the past that are influencing the things that are going on right now? And how can I create that safe space for them to express themselves, us to come to a conclusion of understanding, oh, okay, sometimes I trigger my partner, but it's not me intentionally triggering them, but it's because of their past situations that they are feeling triggered. And so I don't have to take every little thing personal. I don't have to go into defense mode or attack mode whenever they try to come at me in a certain way. It's about extending grace, listening to understand, but also serving the other person, being like, okay, I want to be right in this situation, but let me hear them out so I can know.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is, like, that's where, like, a conversation or communication can actually take a dive, is when you start to take things personal. Because if you go in and you're not open and you start to take it personal, now you're no longer looking at your spouse as your spouse. Or you're no longer looking at that person as a friend or whatever. Now you start to look at them as an enemy. So everything in your mind is now tricking you to look at that person as an enemy. So how do you respond to an enemy? Everything that you say is going to be combative.
Right.
And it's going to be combating what looks like to you as a threat. Mm-hmm. Where in your relationship with your spouse, like, your spouse is not your enemy. Yeah. And so I think not taking it personal is a huge challenging, but huge aspect of it.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you have really taught me is learning how to step away from a conversation. It doesn't have to just be confrontational, but it could be a really important conversation or whatever. And if we're not seeing eye to eye, like I get into the mode because of my past traumas and abandonment and things like that, I go into the mode of, okay, I don't want to be abandoned, so like let's fix this so that I'm not abandoned. But really, it's super important to take that time away in certain conversations, because I think I read this or something, but it said like, you take a step away from the conversation to leave room for the Holy Spirit to encompass your thoughts, encompass your heart, help you to shift your perspective and things like that. And when you leave that room and prayerfully go into conversations, it allows for you to die to yourself, gives you enough time to die to yourself, and also it helps you to, again, see the other person as a teammate, a friend, a spouse. Like we are working together to try to come to one common goal. And so when you step away, it makes room for God to move in not only like your spouse's heart, because I feel like a lot of times you're like, oh yeah, let me give them some space so they can like figure it out and get their life. But really, that is meant for you to also get your life, and for you to figure out, why am I looking at it in this way? How can I shift my perspective? Maybe I looked at this wrong.
Yep, exactly. And for all my believers, like, think about it. Think about how many times Jesus had to step away from situations or from everything that was going on, and he had to like be in a space alone with just him and God, where he would literally step away from what is going on at that moment and step into a place where he was able to communicate with his Father. And that's kind of the same thing that, you know, we in our relationship, because of our communication styles, and it may also help yours, that we have to do, you know, because a lot of times if you are reactive and if you react in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking straight. Like right at that moment, you're having feelings, surface feelings like anger, frustration. So you don't want to react in those moments, because that's when you can say some hurtful things. You know, and then it can make the situation even worse, and the communication becomes unproductive. Where if you're able to create and set aside a time, and this is something that we learned from my therapist, like instead of me saying, hey, I don't feel like talking right now, like me saying, hey, like, can we actually set aside a time for us to talk about this, maybe tomorrow? That's really good. Or something. Like for me, like in the mornings or at nights, like those are times that are like, I am in a different space. I'm not completely aware. And those are moments where I could get really defensive if I'm in a heated conversation or something like that. And so for me, it's like, hey, like, can we actually talk about this tomorrow morning? If it's the night before that we're talking about, can we talk about this tomorrow at lunch? Or can we actually push this, you know, a little bit further back and come back and talk about this, and don't like push it back too far. Because
for someone like me who needs that.
Because then she's just sitting there like,
when is it gonna end?
Exactly. So maybe even if it's like an hour, you feel me? Like an hour, I step away, I may go for a walk, or I may write about it, or I may just be in my space and I'm able to actually think through my feelings and process. And then say, hey, Jasmine, like, we can reconvene this conversation in about an hour, or let's say 2 hours, and come back together.
And another thing that makes me think of is, so we have marriage mentors who are amazing. Shout out to them. Rob and Kim, we love you. Anyway, but they actually do this really funny thing that helps to pause the conversation and get realigned. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but
I don't even fully understand this one yet, and I don't know. It would just be funny if
we haven't tried it yet. But basically, they were telling us that, especially in heated conversations, if they feel like it's snowballing to a place where it's like, oh, this is not good, I'm getting heated, you're getting heated, literally one of them or both of them will be like, in the middle of the conversation, be like, shut up. And they said, it sounds weird. They were like, but when we, like, one of us does that, we both pause and we always laugh because it's really random and just like,
Yeah.
But they were saying that pause to be able to laugh, it helps them to pause and like look within themselves really quick to be like, okay, how am I sounding? Where's my tone? Whoa, let me get realigned. And then it helps to kind of jiggle out the conversation so that you can get back on track, talking, telling the truth in love, talking to each other in a respectful way, and things like that. So we haven't tried it yet.
Yeah,
but
we'll let y'all know if we do it. I'm just worried that Jasmine might think I'm, like, if I say shut up, like, she might think I'm serious.
I
so
know.
I'm guessing I have to laugh, like, right after. So we'll let y'all know. If
We'll
it sounds
back.
crazy.
I mean, you don't have to say shut up. You could literally say something random. I mean, but I just thought that was hilarious.
Everybody has something different. So
so we thought that was really, really funny but cool advice, because you do need that one thing to throw a wrench in the conversation really quick to shuffle it up so that you can get back realigned, which is super important.
Yeah, and I think the last thing, you know, that I know works for us and that we are called to do anyway is to be forgiving and show grace no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, so never like just allowing the conversation to end on a bad note. Like us, like a lot of times when we have a heated discussion or whatever, or a conversation or a disagreement, like when we take a step away, like we start to process everything that happened, maybe things that we said that was wrong, and then like we literally, like I know for me, like I literally have to like talk to God and be like, okay, where was I wrong, you know, in this situation?
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, I can't just allow this to just simmer. So we come together and we apologize to each other for the things that we did wrong in the situation. Even if we feel like we were right about the topic at hand or the disagreement, like we apologize about, okay, if our tone was negative or if we said something that was hurtful, like we apologize for those things. And then like we both come together, we talk about it in our right mind, and then we forgive each other.
Yeah.
And we show each other grace.
Yeah.
And we don't just carry it with us and carry it on. Now it's a lot more challenging than it sounds.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy and it takes a lot of practice. You know, it's something that we continuously have to work on. But showing grace and being forgiving is probably the most important part of communication when it comes to heated discussions and disagreements.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that wraps everything up for sure. And I want you guys to be encouraged because like communication is not easy. I mean, no matter how long you've been with a person, married, in a friendship, whatever, it doesn't get easier because people are constantly evolving in a good way.
And we're about to get married, so now we about to be living with each other.
Yeah, so that's a whole different.
Kicking each other in the middle of our sleeves.
That's a whole different.
So now we got more stuff to be communicating healthily about.
Right, exactly. So it's just, I think the bottom line is believing the best about your partner and being quick to forgive. Practicing self-awareness on yourself, just understanding who you are, what your communication style is, what your partner's communication style is, so that you guys can go into your next conversation knowing those things and properly and effectively communicating with each other. So let me know in the comments down below what your communication style is, because I would love to know. And if you have any tips and tricks that you've done with your partner or your friend or whatever that you feel has been really effective for you. But thanks for being on here, babe. I feel like this conversation was really fruitful and really good, and we want to bring more types of conversations like this to my channel. So without further ado, I love you guys so much. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and I will see you in the next one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.